Man, that TBR just keeps getting longer and longer. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be adding on to my never-ending TBR, and I'll be adding 15 more books, and these books are all coming from the SPFBO, and if you don't know what that is the self-published fantasy blog off. And this is an annual contest that is hosted by, or run by, Mark Lawrence, who is the author of the Broken Empire trilogy. And it includes 300 self-published books, and they are all submitted and then handed out to either individuals or groups who act as judges. There are 10 of these groups / people this year, and each of them are responsible for a whopping 30 books, which is quite a lot to add onto your list. I can't imagine doing that all by myself. I know there are a couple, I think Bookborn and Philip Chase are both the only members of their team. Speaking of those teams, like I just mentioned, they are Bookborn, a fantasy book critic, fantasy faction, Lynn's Books plus The Critiquing Chemist, The Weather Wax Report, Becky M, Before We Go blog, Queen's Book Asylum, Philip Chase, and then Covers with Cassidy. Zach Argyle has a super helpful page that kind of keeps all of this in line. It's all on his website that you can buy his books from and everything as well. But he has all 300 books listed there that are split up by the team, and you can see their covers and everything. And it has links to all of them on Amazon. I've been somewhat aware of this contest for a few years now, but this is actually the first time that I'm making any real effort at all to read some of these books. And I went through all 300 books, mostly just by the cover. I didn't read through all of them, so I'm sure I'm missing some gems that I would absolutely love. But I have narrowed it down to this list of 15, and I'm hoping to get to them at some point. I'm not going to hard commit to it, partially because I don't think I own a single one of these books yet. I have heard of some of them already, but I don't think I've bought a single one yet. So there's that. And then also a lot of my reading time is currently taken up by my Cosmere read that I'm doing right now. But there are definitely some books that I want to squeeze in, especially as I finish up some of my other series that I'm reading, like James Bond. It would be great to add in some of these, especially the ones that are standalone or first books in a series. If you want to hear about more of these books, definitely go check out Christopher Navo's channel. He did a video on his top 20 books, and we do have some crossover, but it's not a crazy amount. He definitely has some different ones on there than me, and I know Philip Chase went over all of his, and definitely check out Zach's website. He's got all the information you could need there. I'll do my best to have links to everything in the description of this video, between links to the books, Zach's website, all the channels that might be doing stuff based around this. And it's a lot of information, so hopefully I don't miss anything. But with all of that being said, let's go ahead and jump into my list. We will start with Notes on Monster Hunting by Chad Ritter. The world is filled with creatures that have grown too big or too aggressive. These animals are considered monsters. Shackle's Monster Hunting Company travels unaffiliated with kingdoms, taking contracts to kill animals harming human life. Beatric journalist and records the hunt as part of the Force Squad. She roams further from her home into unknown kingdoms and conflicts. This little blurb definitely gave me some like Lewis and Clark vibes, you know, out kind of exploring while they're hunting down some creatures. And I'm also curious if there will be any like these creatures aren't really bad kind of vibes that go on, maybe a little bit of like a conservative in this aspect of like taking care of nature, if there will be kind of that spin to this story. The Moss Dragon of Brittlekeep by Ashley Capes. When Penny stumbles across a dragon's tooth beneath the city cemetery, she unwittingly becomes a target of Brittlekeep's master and his dark magic. Worse, Lord Massimore seems to know about her fire hands, a magic he wants to possess. I really like this book cover. You know, it's got a dragon on it. As a fantasy fan, you know, it's got a dragon on it. It obviously is going to catch my attention, but also hearing about like a magic that the bad guy kind of wants to possess is also kind of a nice little attention getter. Shadownet by William Ray. Glen Sworry is the sheriff of Kate's Fields, a tiny settlement in an otherwise lawless frontier. With the discovery of diamonds, her town is flooded with fortune hunters looking to strike it rich. It's also a target for competing colonial powers, savage goblin tribes, and outlaws. So from what I can tell, this isn't the first book in a series, which means I have to probably read some other books to get to it. But some like Wild West action with like a fantasy spin on it sounds like a great time to me. Dream of Death City by P.J. Newson. I'm sorry, I got that wrong, so wrong. Pale moths hunt an icy frontier beneath the shadow of drowned god A frozen body is unearthed from the snow. Investigators arrive to Superstitious Island to solve a brutal crime. Among them is a lowly slave desperate to prove her worth and a soldier with dark dreams. Neither are prepared for what they will find. The mystery angle is kind of what got me hooked on this one. Anything with like a dead god and anything always also interests me, especially if there's a way that it can end up interacting with the world. Penancia by Alex Robbins. Stick with me because there are some words that I do not know how to pronounce in this one. For 20 years, Strategist Dexus has led the phalanx of Theta against its enemies, pulled from one battleground to another in a relentless cycle of war and bloodshed. Now, finally, he has found the courage to leave the field behind, to relinquish his officer's sword and return to the verdant slopes of his vineyard with his wife and son. Peace, however, is fragile, and Corporius, that when Thenan's northern ally brings word of an enormous Turgan horde gathering on their borders, Deoxys has no choice but to answer the call to arms one last time. Once again, those were some... Dyslexia is hard, you know, but the old grizzled veteran trope is always something that works with me, especially if there's like, you know, some real big honor and duty kind of stuff that gets mixed into the story, or, you know, some kind of like noble sacrifice. That can always be something that works for me. The Book of Zog by Alec Hudson. In the shadow of cosmic horror, newly birthed entity Zergris must come to understand his true nature, learn how to wield his dreadful powers, and search for meaning in the mad spaces between the stars. Hopefully, he will make some friends along the way. Also, there's a cat. Just from that little blurb, it sounds like this might be kind of like a light-hearted comedy kind of thing with some like dark elements that they make humorous. And that's something I can always enjoy, seeing the dark stuff, but in a funny light. That's not really something I normally read, but when I do read it, it's really refreshing and I normally enjoy it. Twilight Kingdom by H.J. Tolson. On the eve of her 16th birthday, Candle Ains discovers her brother has sold her soul to a demon. Well, I don't think you can be a much worse brother than that, selling your sister to a demon, but that was enough for me to be interested in it, to see if there's maybe some revenge plot that goes on or something like that. Seemed interesting enough. The Last Fang of God by Ryan Kirk. When gods refuse to die, it's humans that suffer. Safely hidden deep within the endless field of his late wife's people, Kaglin's only dream is to live the rest of his days in peace. He paid for his dream in blood, but neither his sword nor service are deemed or demanded any longer. Any book that has like the option of gods interacting with like normal people is always something I'm going to be really interested in, especially when they're like all powerful, but not like so all powerful that they can't be harmed or anything. And it sounds like this will ride that fine line. 11 Cycle by Cain and Aldern. The rot eats away at mortals. The witness pray so that they may not turn into one of the forgotten, and the constricting mist inflict the land. This is a book I have actually heard a lot about. This is a self-published book that I have heard about, probably since about when it came out. I think Patrick did a video on it and some other people did. And so it's been on my list for a super long time. So hopefully this will be the push I need to finally get around in reading it. Bob the Wizard by M.V. Pridle. Bob, a chain-smoking, foul-mouthed, shotgun-wielding ex-garbage man chases his family's killer, the gray-skinned Galvadon, through the realms of the mysterious Astroverse. The trail leads to Hub, a world in turmoil populated by wizards, blue elves, fairies, giants, dragons, and unfortunately plain old humans. This is a book that really caught my attention just because of the cover, and I also think that like the ex-garbage man revenge story is interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of like a story based around somebody with that profession, so it's just kind of cool to see. River in the Galaxy by Natalie Cadlin. When Marilyn's parents disappeared, his world fell apart. When his best friend died, he lost the ability to enjoy life. For Captain Merlin Riscus, Lanier's death 2 years prior feels like yesterday. But when a map from his parents is discovered, he decides to push aside his grief to get closure and follow the route they vanished along 18 years ago. Once again, another beautiful cover. This closure kind of story, it can always be really cool. I don't know if it'll turn into like a revenge kind of thing, but searching for those mysteries, I do like mysteries, so this is definitely up my alley. Sealed Empire by Norbert Zikovizes. Sorry, man, I butchering that one. Sir Edward, an experienced sailor, embarks on perhaps the most daring expedition of the kingdom of Enzenworth so far. His mission is to try to earn the blessing of the revered Stephen, who is none other than his love's father, probably the most influential man in the realm. But on his journey, besieged by fierce storms, he and his men encounter something that could shake the core, not only their faith, but their very concept of the world as well. anything with like earth-shattering reveals or, you know, changing like the fabric of the reality that a group of people believe in, whether it be like first contact stuff, works for me, and this seems to fit into that. The Monsters We Feed by Thomas Howard Riley. When he stumbles across a brutal murder, Jathan discovers a strange crystal lens that opens his eyes to an invisible world of magic and terror lurking just beneath the surface of his own, making him question everything he thought he knew. Very similar as the previous book, big reveal, learning about a whole different world, earth-shattering revelations, it's all great. So this is another one I decided to add on. Mast of the Void by Wend Raven. Nothing matters more to Dermis Medi than forging a better life for his family by pursuing a formal education at the university, something his parents have sacrificed what little they had to make possible. When disaster strikes on the eve of his 13th birth moment, the day he was to receive his magical gift from the stars, will he choose perseverance or bitterness as he struggles against a society that would rather forge or forget his existence than help him succeed? The magical school is not something I've read a lot recently, hardly ever after Harry Potter, but that's just a really fun setting with a lot that you can do. And it also sounds like there's a revenge angle, or maybe the opportunity for him to veer away from like the standard hero path. So that sounds pretty cool. Dark Strider by Aaron Hodges. A man outside of time and space, Michael Heaton wakes in a new world, one hostile to his very existence. Offworlders are not welcome in the 7th realm. So this looks like it is a progression, like lit RPG kind of story, and I think I've only ever read one of those before, and I liked it. I can't remember exactly what the book was off the top of my head, but I've kind of been on the lookout for another book like it, so maybe this will be the one. Pawn's Gambit by Rob J. Hayes. Once a renowned strategist and general, 5 years ago, Yun made a mistake that cost her everything. Now she is on the run. Royal bounty hunters sniffing at her heels. But what if there was a way to get back what she has lost? A way to bring back a murdered prince. So I believe this is book 2 or 3 in the Never Die series, or maybe they're not related at all, but they have very similar covers and they are by the same author. And that is a book that has been on my list for a super long time. So maybe this will finally give me the push I need to get ahead. So that is my list of 15. Definitely a longer video, but I hope you enjoyed it. If I was going to hard commit to one of these books, I think it would be 11th Cycle. It is definitely the book that has been on my radar the longest probably, and I just think it's something that I would really enjoy, that kind of really dark, grim, dark, you know, brutal kind of stuff. It's something I haven't read really recently, and you know, that's something I would like to get back onto my palette. Let me know about any of these books that you would like to read, or any out of the other, you know, 300 books that I didn't mention. If you want to read them, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your suggestions. Maybe I missed one that you think I would like, or, you know, one you're really pounding the table for. But thanks again for watching, and have a good one.